to date.
Mr.
And I believe in the justification, they're telling you that financially up to, that this potential partnership would allow that connection to occur sooner. I think that is part of their justification.
Because we gave them, if I'm not mistaken, we gave them 3 years, correct? Back in the spring or whenever it was
Last year, I believe. Yes,
The condition was 3 years.
Yes, sir.
So we're about year one of year three. This would move that up, and this would force them to connect, because they couldn't get a certificate of occupancy until such time as the sewer was connected, if we made that condition, correct?
In theory, yes. I would also suggest that there's a potential out there. What if a special, as an example, special exception permit is approved for a dormitory with a condition that says you have to connect to public sewer prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, but those dorms may not be constructed for 4 or 5 years. You've actually then moved that connection further back, potentially, so we would need to be careful in crafting any modification to make sure it's 2 years or prior to the issuance of the sewer.
Whichever day or sooner.
Yeah, we could do that.
I think if you go forward, you want to preserve the fact that we're a year into the 3 years that the board previously granted or approved with the amendment. You want to be careful not to lose that.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Thomas?
And I'm not sure this is necessarily supposed to weigh in our decision, but my opinion, and I believe that the owner is trying to sell this facility. Putting the dorms helps him sell the facility. So that's just the landscape as I see it. So if we approve the dorms, that means we'll probably have a new owner who'll do more, but we still don't want to change the connection to the county sewer, which was a condition originally that he was 18 months behind. We came back and allowed him another 3 years, so now he's got 2 years to do that, less than 2. So that's where we are. If he just walks away from the facility, we lose a little bit of revenue, a lot of revenue. So we need to help facilitate this sale. Yeah, there's money we get from this.
Other questions?
But if you wish to table it, that's fine.
If we tabled this tonight, we could go to public hearing anytime with this. Is that not true? We've done a reading. We know what we have. The applicant's not here, correct? Is there anybody here for the applicant at all?
Yes.
I guess, because this is multifaceted. This is sewer connection, taking a facility that you potentially have, from what I understand, and turning it into dorms, and or building a separate dormitory, which are two other completely different issues. But I mean, connecting to the sewer is the primary, and I think when we talked, I don't know if you were here then, that was our primary objective, was to get that off of Pump and Hall, because it is not facilitating anything that needs to be done.
My understanding from Mr. Radvany is that the sewer, yes, is basically a prerequisite almost on his part also. I mean, the dormitories that he's talking about would be within the existing facility. So it's not that I'm saying moving forward there wouldn't be, requests for additional dormitories, but it would be built within on the basketball court side of the facility. So from what I read, from what he submitted, that's accepted. I mean, that's expected on his part, regardless of even the remaining 2 years, or it would basically move that up, that time frame up.
And I guess what I'm looking for is the unencumbered connection to the sewer, because when I see what they want to do with this facility, you're going to have all of those facilities to occupy kids that you bring here, because they're not
No,
playing
exactly,
baseball
yeah.
15 hours a day.
I'm sorry?
They're not playing baseball 15 hours a day. You're going to have the rest of that, you're going to need the facility that's there. There's lack of aside from dormitory, you can't, this is just me speaking, you want to take half of the facility that's indoor and turn that into dormitories. And I'm saying if you bring folks there to do baseball, they're going to do baseball 3, 4, 5 hours a day. What do you do with the other 10 hours a day?
Oh, no.
No, well, I understand what you're saying, but we're not talking about,
And the
I'm being
moonshine, and the
realistic.
moonshine, too.
Okay, all right, so at this point, we could say that we could add a condition that says the sewer hookup has to come prior to the dormitories. That's what I hear the board saying, or we could table it until our November meeting, and then I don't know what tabling it is going to do, really, because I don't know that we're going to have any more information in November than we have now. I mean, I don't know that our views are going to change. It seems to hinge on the connecting to the sewer. That seems to be what the board is saying. So,
Mr. Chairman, to clarify, we are saying that if we allow dormitories, they would have to connect to the county sewer system on the earliest date, either when the dormitories are completed or when their original time period was, whichever came first. So we would be, as a county, we would be at no risk because they would still be required to do it within the 3-year time frame. We would also get the benefit of, if they did dormitories, we would get it sooner, and we would also have an opportunity for the transit occupancy tax, which would bring additional revenue to them now. So, in Mr. Underwood's absence, I could make a motion that we move ahead to public hearing, or we could wait for Mr. Underwood to come back. The reality is that this was in the Mattapani district for most of its lifetime. It has only recently transferred to the Reedy Church district, so,
did you have another comment, Mr.?
Mr. Chairman, the only point I was going to make is, the only amendment is to change the definition to include dormitories. The discussion related to the connection to sewer would arise during a consideration of the special exception amendment to allow the dormitory.
Okay.
So all this deals with is the definition.
Okay.
there's no risk moving forward.
A motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would move forward with the first reading as well as
Public hearing.
public hearing. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
You better do a nay vote before you go motion carries.
Okay, a roll call vote. Mr. Thomas, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood is not here. Mr. Akers? You vote nay?
Yeah.
Mr.
For the sake of public hearing, I'll vote aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Underwood's returning, if you'd like to register his vote.
Mr. Underwood votes nay. So it's 4-2. Okay. Let's move ahead to agenda item number 11. First reading, proposed text amendment, Article 13, Section 1-4, off-street parking requirements.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the proposed text amendment that you have before you tonight is necessary for the application for the Ladysmith Crossing rezoning application to proceed. The current GDP was based upon a roughly one parking space for every 200 square feet of retail area. The proposal before you would amend that to one space per 250 square feet. So it would actually reduce the overall parking requirements for a shopping center in the PSC zoning district. Our parking regulations, for the most part, were based upon standards back from the early 70s. And one thing that we found over the years is that a lot of times those parking spaces go unused for probably 95 to 98% of the calendar year. The heaviest usage in the parking areas tends to be during that time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And otherwise, it's a sea of vacant parking. So this proposed text amendment is consistent with the general development plan that has been submitted with the rezoning request and is comparable to the parking standards from some of the other jurisdictions we have surveyed for these larger types of developments.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Finchman, should we actually, in crafting this, I mean, if somebody built a 20-acre or has a smaller facility, are we then just allowing for less parking? Should we put a size in this over a certain size? Because I do agree with you, parking gets underused, but when you, at what point do you need more than we're going to have with this? Is there a point where a building size should be 1 per 200 and then a point where it should be 1 for 250?
I think it really deals with use. And I'll give you an example. You would not want to reduce the parking requirements for a restaurant.
Correct.
Okay? This does not do that.
Okay.
This is simply tied to retail floor area, retail, for the retail aspect. Does not cover, convenience stores or restaurants or things like that.
I didn't see the differentiation.
Rental floor area to 1 per 250 for retail development. We actually have if you want to say change development to business, okay? Or,
I guess
or
I
retail
didn't
use,
understand what the difference was.
we actually have a parking standard for retail sales.
Okay.
That's the 1 per 250, okay? So if you want to change that last sentence for retail, instead of say retail development, say retail sales, I think that goes to that specific classification that we're looking at.
And that's, I guess I didn't differentiate between the two, and I thought we were moving the whole thing.
No, just retail.
Okay.
So I think development's fine, but if you want to,
I'm not a planner, I'm just reading this, and I read this as,
yeah. No, I think the restaurant is the perfect example of what you don't want to change.
correct.
Yes, sir. That's not accomplished with this
Okay,
text
as long as
amendment.
that's not accomplished, I'm fine.
Okay. So we need to send this to public hearing?
Yes. This request is also pending at the Planning Commission for approval. Once they forward the recommendation to you, the appropriate action would be to advertise for public hearing at the next available board meeting.
Okay. So then do we want to table it until the planning commission makes their decision, or do we want to send it to public hearing when it's approved or
Pending approval.
pending approval from the planning commission?
We were just trying to keep this running with the expedited rezoning, which is why
Okay.
we have recommended this.
Okay. So we can advertise a public hearing?
Yes, regardless of what they say.
Okay. But I was just saying, would it be appropriate to have a public hearing prior to planning commission approving it.
No, you can't do that.
Right.
The planning commission needs to make its recommendation to the board.
So we have to say pending approval from the planning
Well,
commission?
not necessarily
Not approval.
approval, they could recommend denial,
Okay.
as long as they take an action.
Pending
Oh,
action.
pending action from the,
Or they have to not take action for like
Okay.
60 days, 90 days. and then-
okay. So then the motion is in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
That's second.
So moving properly second that we would send this to public hearing pending action from the planning commission.
Hopefully for the first meeting in November.
Well, I mean pending action for the planning commission, basically. We can't do it before then. So. All in favor?
They meet next week? You meet next week, planning
They
commission?
meet Thursday.
Oh, this week.
Okay, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Chairman, abstain.
Motion carries. The records will show 4 ayes and 1 abstention. 5 ayes and 1 abstention. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to discussion of adding Caroline County Visitor Center to the list of county facilities made available for rental by the public.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Black had received a call from a local church that was interested in using the visitor center for community outreach. It's included in your packet. And we realized we didn't really have any policy for use of that facility as a public facility, as this room and the EOC and another room down in the other end of the building, set policy. We rent them out. We charge for it and that type of thing. So we have it on tonight to discuss. I mean, obviously, we have a few things that we feel are important. Being that it's a visitor center, we don't think that you would be able to really rent that out during the day. It would be a conflict in there with the general public wandering in and out and whatever, somebody's trying to have a birthday party. And so we think it would be in the off hours. Clearly, there needs to be somebody present, as we have in this facility when we rent it out. So there is going to be a cost. It's not like whoever's here can suddenly be there if this is rented. So we may end up having to put on some other part-time staff to be able to do it. So my thoughts are maybe as a trial period, you pick, hey, we'll do it Friday, Saturday night, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Come up with I don't know that you necessarily need it 7 days a week yet, or a few night, a Tuesday night. Come up with something that would give some limited use of the facility in that area that would be beneficial not only to this church but some other folks that may have a use of that at night. But I think if you want to have it all the time, it's going to certainly be a cost to provide that service.
Could we get staff to come up with a policy
Clearly.
and bring that back, and then we would decide on it at that time?
Be glad to.
Okay. All right. That's the consensus of the board. I don't think we need a motion for that. Okay, that takes us to informational calendar items.
Get my next piece up. We have obviously been brought up, we have Fall Festival in Bowling Green this weekend. The 21st, we have the regional elected officials meeting, and Mr. Black is going to attend that. The 22nd, Mr. Akers community meeting, Lady Smith Library. Key date, the 27th, we have the RACSB legislative get-together at their building over across from the, and you don't want to forget that. You want to forget that.
I got that too.
Mr. Seeley has a community meeting on the 29th along with Mr. Akers. And then Frog Level has their Halloween festival, Frog Level Day, the 31st. The VACO annual conference starts on the 6th and runs through the 10th. Veterans Day is the 11th. The county office is closed. Board meeting on the 12th, so I've already moved us all the way to the next board meeting. Then we have a meeting on the 24th. I will be in Florida, so Mr. Parton will be subbing for me. It's okay with the folks.
All right.
That'll be a long evening, Mr. Pardon. You'll pile up the agenda.
Everything I don't want to deal with.
Okay. That takes us to closing board comments. You have any closing board comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is probably our last board meeting. This is our last board meeting before the election, so I wish everyone good luck.
Thank you. Mr. Black?
No, Mr. Chairman, not this time, thank you.
I wish you good luck, Mr. Black, in the election.
Unless it's a major write-in candidate.
Mr. Underwood?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
No, sir. No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And I have none either. I would also like to wish all the board members good luck as well. Okay, that takes us to our closed meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the personnel exemption section of 2.2-311A1 of the Code of Virginia to discuss a personnel matter involving a performance of a county employee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
So we move in properly second that we enter into closed meeting under section 2.2-3711A-1 personnel. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're now